Hello everyone, Switch Noble here. This is going to be a different video from what I usually do. I've been asked to do a video about Pokemon. It's particularly about 10 evolutions that doesn't even make sense. It was actually asked by my ex-girlfriend Rose. I was even aware about this potential after all, there are almost close to 900 Pokemons out there in this entire generation from 1 to 9, 8. So consider how many different Pokemons there are. But when she mentioned this particular list on a site, so I went to look at it, and it did actually get top 10 of different Pokemon. And I will go through every single one. That even will include some region variants of one type of Pokemon. But anyways, let's start with number 10. At number 10, the Yamper line. This Pokemon is electric type from Galar region. This design is based from a Corgi. They're from England. This dog Pokemon, unlike many others, are based from a dog. But this one is very. I like this evolution. Bolton. Bolton is a very more like a. It's more like sheepdog design of an evolution, or like a hound dog. That the only made strange that the only complete difference between the Yamper and the Bolton is because of the long legs. That's made. Bolton is made for like running, but Jumper is not even like that. I mean, this only that this physical traits and that this has extra short legs. It doesn't would make sense how this trait will somehow part and pass on to Jumper's evolution of Bolthood. But unfortunately, since the only part that is different between Joltund and Jumper is it because of different design. Like Jumper itself has very long legs, and Bolthund has Yolder. Even though despite of electric type Pokemon, but it's a very different, unique design of this. I admit, Jumper is a very cute design of this electric type Pokemon from Galar region. I think it is actually a very cute Pokemon. But I yet admit though, is the design of this next evolution is completely different compared to Yamper. Anyways, like I mentioned, it's a very other Pokemon from Generation 1 up to Generation 8. Some of them has even different designs, and some of them may even make sense at all. Anyways, now go to number 9. Number 9, Oddish line. Oddish itself is a very unique design of a Pokemon. But even despite that, its later evolution at Gloom, it has a very unique designs. First, on the first generations, we had Gloom, and Valley Bloom. But then it had we wouldn't get until generation 2, when we had there's another addition of this evolution to Bellossom. Bellossom when it's a very different completely the design of this complete different generation or in even this evolution line. But here's the difference. Now we had from generation 1 into 2, there end up in the complete that when you have a Gloom, you can actually evolve it to 2 different evolution lines, like either a Veloplume or a Bellossom. In that perspective, it's what is going it's a bit strange. I mean, 2 different, like a Sunstone for a Bellossom or Leafstone to evolve to Veliplume. But here's the another thing. Unlike the others, like when Oddish, Gloom, and Veliplume, they all had dark blue bodies except for Bellossom, which has light green colored. Even that even makes sense. It has a green type of it has a light green color of its skin, unlike these others. So how in that the strange being that despite it was having a sandstone from evolving from Gloom to Bellossom, so I believe it is a very strange and even an evolution that even doesn't even make sense. Like compared to like the previous other generations from the generation one of its evolution line, Odyssey to Veloplume is like dark blue, but Bellossom is light green color. It is unlike, and not only that, Gloom and Veloplume has like a part of shroom of its head. Meanwhile, Oddish has only like leaf of its head, which makes sense. But at the same time, parallelism has just two flowers. So, in my opinion, Odyssey line with Bellossom as its last or a second part of its last evolution line, it doesn't even make sense at all. But it's still this one of the two last evolutions of Odyssey Oddish is in fact is kind of cute design. I admit to that, but sometimes that even makes sense for compared to this previous evolution line. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And now goes to number 8. At number 8, Dratini line. Dratini itself fell among its evolution to Dragonair and the last Dragonite. The Dragonite itself as a Pokemon is a very strong and very unique, unlike the most other type of flying Pokemon, like the other flying dragon type, like Charizard and Eevee, among others. But this line of Pokemon of Dratini is a very unique. Unlike the most others, Dratini itself can't even fly. But until the next evolution, Dragonair, that one actually can use its part of its like on its head as like fin on its head to expand them to like be able to fly. And until the next evolution to Dragonite, which has its given eye, had the ability to look like more able to fly even faster. But here is the kicker. Despite compared to Dragonite and its two previous evolution in its line, doesn't even make sense. The first two looks like almost like serpents or like snake type of Pokemon like Arbok and even Eskans, like for some example. But compared to that, this last evolution to Dragonite and compared to these two previous ones doesn't even make sense. There is no signs of anything of this evolution as to that how that's getting evolved. And in my opinion, this is one of the most strange evolution lines that even makes sense at all. But compared to though, this is in fact the only time of those Pokemon lines that makes no sense. But even though the first evolution of the Dratini is a cute Pokemon, but Dragonair is a very cute in itself with its own elegant design, but Dragonite is a very unique itself. It has some parts that close to similar to as its head itself, like the head design is very close to resembled to Dratini and Dragonair for some reason. But otherwise from that, Virtual itself is a very unique, but also this at the same time doesn't even make sense. For this example, how could a Pokemon like Dragonite to evolve from this to others previous ones? Does even make sense? In my opinion, this is one of the most strange Pokemon evolution lines that doesn't even make sense. But despite those two of this Pokemon has a very unique design. I admit to that. But at the same time, it doesn't even make sense. And how does evolution? Now go to number 7. At number 7, we have Feebas line. Feebas itself is a fish-type Pokemon, and it has been considered to be one of the most ugliest creatures. It has a simple brown fish-type Pokemon, but not inferior to it is. This is in fact one of the most very unusual but very strange design. It's a very strange evolution of this. Consider from how much, like, it's only that the Pokemon itself, like, this reminds me almost like Magikarp design. It's like evolution. From a fish to almost a strange, but at the same time, even much stronger Pokemon. But here's what a part of the Feebas line. Is since Feebas is evolved to Milotic, is considered the most beautiful Pokemon ever. Has this bond itself is like it resembles almost like close to like Dragonair, which has it's like it is almost like Velotic is close resembles to well Dragonair for an example. But this evolution doesn't even make sense if you ask me. For a fish Pokemon, and as has been considered to be one of the most ugliest creatures in the Pokemon universe, but when its evolution, Milotic, is considered to be the most beautiful Pokemon ever, how does that even make sense? From an like its elegant serpentine body from a fish. Well, consider from the Magikarp, Gyarados, but at the same time, this is in fact one of the most strangest evolutions that even makes sense for a second. I have seen the Pokemon itself over and over, but I don't even still make sense how could this consider to be one of the most strangest and also an evolution doesn't even make sense. Feebas itself doesn't even look much just as a Pokemon compared to Magikarp. But at the same time, when Magikarp evolves to Gyarados, it's a very stronger Pokemon, has a powerful ability, has the ability to fly. But for example, as Feebas, unknown when it's evolved to Milotic. Milotic is in fact the very most beautiful Pokemon I have seen, I admit to that. But its evolution is compared to both of them, it doesn't even make sense. Since this Pokemon Feebas evolves to Milotic only when it has experienced true happiness of friendship or any kind. But otherwise, this evolution of Feebas line doesn't even make sense for anything. For like a Feebas to Milotic, for some reason, this evolution has no even slightly has no sense how this even makes sense. And now let's go to number 6. At number 6, we have Snorunt Line. Snorunt is a very strange Pokemon itself, as has two evolution lines on Snorunt. Sorry if I mispronounced that type, but it is a small ice type Pokemon. And I mean, since it has two types of evolutions, that if there's a female holding a downstone, which evolves to Frostlass, and but if this is a male, it evolves to Glyly. Uh, sorry, Glyly. It's a very strange design of this evolution. This evolution doesn't somehow even make sense compared to that. If we had to focus like on Glylee and Frostlight's design, Glylee looks like a floating head, like a floating head. Meanwhile, and Frostlass has a very more elegant body itself, as like it using its like his long ears as almost like hands or arms. And then if we go back to this first evolution, Snowround has in fact small hands, a small body. It's like a cone-shaped body. But here is the thing: this evolution somehow doesn't even make sense. I mean, from a small Pokemon and like Snowround evolves into Frostlass and Glylee, that's even it makes sense. The only part is compared when if you hatch a female and a male of the same Pokemon, and then somehow when you discovered that the female evolves to Frostlass and the male evolves to Glylee. But here's the thing: the female evolves when if you turn hand that holding it as downstone, a dawnstone, but the male evolves not by holding any evolution items. That it will evolve by leveling up, by increases levels. That is the only to compare to be from that Snowround's evolution. The female can only be involved when you have him let him hold a downstone, but Glylee evolves by increases on levels. It is considered per evolution doesn't even make sense from that part. I cannot even say I can see that the both are still ice type as like its first evolutions from the line. But at the same time, it doesn't even make sense. Why would the female the only ones to be evolving to a Frostlass if we have that particular evolution stone? But if you has a male Snorunt, then you have to increase his own levels to evolve into Glylee. But at the same time, it doesn't even make sense. I really doing this even though I admit that Frostlass design is unique, it has a very different. This design itself is not even remotely close to its first evolution or even to Glylee. Frostless and Glylee has two different unique designs that even is far remote from its first evolution. So I am saying Snorunt line is the very one of the most unique, but at the same time also on the evolution that even makes sense. It's very strange. I admit to this is one of the most unusual designs of a Pokemon design that has two evolutions, but this one has been only can only be involved if you pass down one evolution stone, another one had to be increasing its levels of being evolving. That is the only time or one of the few Pokemon has when the two different genders can only be evolved two different ways. So I admit this evolution of Snorunt doesn't even make sense. Now go to number 5. At number 5, Clamperl line. This the Pokemon itself is very also one of the most very different designs. Like the first part of evolution is looks like a clamshell holding a pearl. But with the next evolution that has also can only be evolved by if you trade it but holding two different evolutions items. Like if you hold, for example, if you expose your Crampel to deep sea scale, you evolve it to Gorabice, which has a pink color, which Monster Crumble has a very resemble, so it's pre-evolution. But if you hold it a deep sea tooth, they will evolve to Huntile, or I pronounce it right. And this is a very one of those evolution lines that has a very completely different evolution lines. Crampel is a very unique, It resembles the very same type of Pokemon that close to Shelly, I think pronounced it right. That same Pokemon that it has to Slowpoke to evolve to Slowbro. But here's another thing. Goribas Goribus is a has a the head itself looks like almost like a dolphin but the same type of fish. Meanwhile, this the other shell evolution, Huntail, it looks like almost like an electric eel. So how even this makes sense in from a clam type of Pokemon evolves two different designs by holding two different items? Well, even to myself, it doesn't have no make sense at all at this point. I can understand like Clamperl has very unique design, with has a very natural and almost like a realistic designs of almost a real clam in our world. But having it is evolved to two different Pokemon does not even look alike at all. If we compare to Gorbis with Huntail, none of them doesn't even resemble each other at all. This is a very one of the most very strange but uneven evolution that has no sense. It is no in a mention about that. This design of the two different ones, if this two different lines of evolution, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, despite that Humtail looks like more an electric eel, while Gorbis has its own almost has like a fish dolphin kind of way design of it, but at the same time, this is a very unique and very strangely odd evolution line, since it involves two different Pokemon that don't like alike at all. I mean, consider from this, how can any Pokemon evolve from a clam type of Pokemon as it did to this basic design as a pre-evolution, and by holding two different evolution items and evolve to two different? Well, even though that seems that they are that Gorbis and Huntail even remotely close look each other at all. That is all I want to say about this one. Now go to number 4. At number 4 we have Magikarp line. Ever since G back in Generation 1 and onwards, the only different exception from this odd designs of evolution of Magikarp to Gyarados is a very similar to Feebas and Melodic, but that the only known compared to from that evolution of that type of Pokemon and Magikarp evolution line, that Magikarp evolves from increasing its own levels. Unlike from Feebas, which evolves by had its own beauty increase of happiness, or at least something like that. But here's the thing. Meanwhile, that Feebas is considered to be the most ugliest Pokemon ever, from to Magikarp goes from to be one of the most weakest Pokemon, and to be and that Gyarados is considered to be one of the most strongest Pokemon. But here's the thing. The only role somehow the only poke the Magikarp has as an attack is like attack, splash, and even that is only known attacks it has. But if you consider from that how this Pokemon evolves from a type of fish to this furious Gyarados, which has it can fly and has hyper beam attacks, if it makes sense. Like this, this evolution defying all odds and even defying all logical answers or reasons. I cannot even find any reasonable reason to tell exactly why this Magikarp is somehow has evolved from a very weak Pokemon, evolves this furious, strong type Pokemon like Gyarados. Gyarados is a very strong Pokemon. It's one of the most cool water Pokemon and compared its pre-evolution from Magikarp. Magikarp is very like Feebas, weak, ugly, strange, but evolves into a more powerful, stronger Pokemon? Or unlike that, how did that even make sense? That since Magikarp is known most for useless attacks like Attack, Splash, and when it reached level 20, it will evolve to Gyarados. Somehow, is one of the most feared beasts in of the sea. So how in that makes sense from a weak Pokemon that evolves to the most feared beast of Pokemon in the sea? Well, if you ask me, it doesn't even make sense at all. I mean, from a Magikarp, when I first saw it back in Generation 1 on TV, I thought, how can that Pokemon? I thought maybe this Pokemon doesn't even have any strong. Maybe this. When I first saw it, I thought, okay, this Pokemon doesn't even have any evolution. It just has no evolution at all. But when I found out, in fact, when it evolves into Gyarados, to be one of the strongest, feared Pokemon of the sea. So in how, in a sense, can that even make that? Like, Magikarp is to be one of the most weakest of the Pokemon, evolves somehow to the most feared or the most strongest water type Pokemon in the Pokemon universe. It's not having a slight makes sense at all. It's like it's defying all odds and even defying all logical answers and more logical sense. It's very strange. I admit this Pokemon itself is one of the most. I admit it's one of the most Pokemon designs that or evolution line that has no single sense. I admit, ah, this is one of the strange. But now we go to number 3. At number 3 we have Slowpoke evolution line, and here is one of the most unique Pokemon designs. Oli is one of the most odd, but also is one of the very few that has a region variant of it. There's one that is based in Galar, which I will talk about after this one. Even though despite Slowpoke is considered to be one of the most stupidest Pokemon ever, but considered from how its evolution is different. Like, it has two different evolutions, like Slowbro and Slowking. Slowking itself is a very unique Pokemon, I admit. Even though despite evolution somehow doesn't even make sense, but it has a very unique design on it. And somehow this Pokemon itself is very unlike among others. In fact, Slowking is one among few Pokemon that has the ability to talk human speech. Even despite with like Meowth from the Team Rocket, he is in fact one of the most Pokemon that he had trained himself to be able to talk like a human. But there are other Pokemon that has ability, other mimic like to be a mimic of human speech. But Slowking has ability to talk like a human. But since they all know it is a certain Pokemon that lives coexist together, like Slowking, Slowbro, and Slowpoke, all of them live together, they don't even make sense. That they don't bother to live as after that they look different, but they all live together as one big family. Unspec from their evolutionary relationship. But the only thing that is a very strange though, when a shelter is present in the area, since it has somehow is responsible for this evolution. If it is hit biting its tail, it will evolve to Slowbro. But if it bites on its head, it will evolve to Slowking. If it bites on its tail, it doesn't even increase its own intelligence. That's like it remains the same level of intelligence as those previous as a Slowpoke. But if it bites on its head to be Slowking, evolution doesn't. That is somehow is what makes it is compared and makes it different from this previous two evolution lines. Slowking is how increasing its evolution's intelligence. When a shelter is biting its head, it releases a toxin that increases its own intelligence, which makes it somehow more intelligent and even gives it the ability to talk like a human. But here is the thing. If a shelter somehow released from a Slowking's head, it will de-evolve back to Slowpoke. And that is what is one of the most feared Pokemon that's very unique from other Pokemon that's in entire that world. Because there aren't any other Pokemon that goes back as previous evolution. Unlike the Slowpoke is the only one that's when it as a Slowking, it goes back as to be a Slowpoke. Unlike from the most of the previous other evolutions, this is a very unique but also has its own unique designs. Slowking is a Pokemon that somehow even is a very unique design but doesn't even make sense. I mean, even from the Sheldar, another type of shell Pokemon, is also word type, but unlike from others, this as a Pokemon is somehow it doesn't even make sense. First, a Slowpoke when it's somehow attached to a Sheldar to involve a Slowbro or a Slowking, but it's all the different design though. Otherwise from that is just a very strangely designed. Let's now focus on the Slowpoke line from the Galar region. The Galar's version of the variant of Slowpoke is unlike its infamous Kanto part, since the Slowpoke from Kanto region and others are water psychic type, but meanwhile the from the Galar is psychic. And here's the thing: when the only time when Slowpoke from the Galar region attached to a shelter, it evolves to when it's like the Slowbro. The other from that is only compared from this Kanto version is that it in fact it doesn't even bite its in the tail. It bites in the one of the arms, which does somehow even make sense if you ask me. This type of Pokemon normally is very strange compared. Despite that, the Galarian type of Slowbro then somehow evolves to a poison psychic type. But even we know for Slowking itself is one of the most unique design. Even after all of this, Slowking itself as regional variant of this Pokemon is well somehow even though that compared to the other Slowking, which has again ability to talk. But it says here, like in Galar, when it bites, it causing a different chemical reaction to the brain to this Galeria to Galariaca spice that makes part of the Galarian Slowpoke's diet, causing it Galarian Slowking to take a unique appearance. It has to grow more of the dominant and appearing to be well somehow it seems the only compared to Slowking's evolution in the Galar region is somehow seems to be more the Shelter to be more dominant side of this evolution unlike these others. So that is the only thing that is they make some compared to that's things apart from the other type of Galar the other Slowking form I'm going to compared to the Galarian Slowking. The Slowking from the Galar region is a very somehow different, unique design. Rather from having been giving the other Pokemon, this other Slowking's ability to talk normally and has an increased intelligence, but this design of Galar Slowking, unlike this and this previous Slowbro and Slowpoke's evolution, they don't even make sense as much at all either. It's a lot of that design even makes sense. Even that Slow King is of Galorigin is very unique. I admit the design itself is very unique. Despite from this, even though that form is also poison psychic type, the only thing that about the Galarian Slowpoke, Slowking, and compared to the other one, is that the Slowking from the Galar is that the shelter is covering its face by one as a bite. I do know this is a very unique design of Slowpoke from Galar region compared to the other Slowpokes, last evolution to be Slowking. Anyways, now go to number 2. At number 2, we have Manafe Namafe line. Sorry if I mispronounce that Pokemon, but this Pokemon itself is a legendary Pokemon. It's a rare, legendary, and mythical Pokemon. And this is in fact one of the rare Pokemon that can in fact be bred by Ditto. Unlike the most other legendary Pokemon, there aren't any that can be compared to. But most other Pokemon like Manaheim line from its can be bred and hatched from its eggs from its pre-evolutions. But this in fact is this Pokemon along with Manaheim can in fact hatch from a Fin1, if I'm right, is Shock and Twist. Since they can't evolve back to into Manaheim despite being a baby, therefore this evolution of Manaheim line is a unique but that works backwards too from that. I admit, when I saw this Pokemon design itself was very unique and very cute design, even though they are close symbols, but they're somehow at some part that they're different apart from each other, but at the same time is a very cute Pokemon design. I admit, I even though I had even seen the movie when this Pokemon was introduced, but this Pokemon, like, is since Fin1 can't even be bred by a Ditto, but it's unlike this other counterparts evolution, Manaphy can only be bred by a Ditto. But these designs of these two somehow, even though it's a very unique and cute designs, somehow it doesn't even make sense either at all. I mean, this unlike among others legendary mythical Pokemons and along those regular ones, this is in fact one of the most cute, but also at the same time shocking exception from part of that they look very similar, but some part of this is just different part. Like Manahem has is like looks like eyelashes, which has yellow dots. Meanwhile, its previous evolution, Fin1 has only one that looks like an eyelash, but has a blue dot. But almost from here, this Pokemon itself somehow even doesn't even make sense. But consider from that, from this evolution has a unique but also works backwards compared from this Pokemon. But at the same time, is as evolution does even make sense. But at the same time, even at the same time, it's a very cute, unique design, but it doesn't even make sense. At least that is for why I believe in part of this opinion though. Now let's go to number 1. At number 1, we have Remoraid line. This Pokemon is a very like Feebas Magikarp, which has no make sense in at all in its evolution part. Like Remoraid, it looks like a fish, but it's a very like a typical blue fish Pokemon with nothing special about it. Naturally, anyone can accept believe that when it evolves would be too much larger and larger fish, maybe like a shark or something. But in reality, it evolves to Otocillid, sorry, I'm not, I cannot even, perhaps not even pronounce the name right, but Otocillary, a red octopus Pokemon. How does that even make sense? Like a normal fish to evolve an octopus? This is in fact a Pokemon design of an evolution that has no meaning or sense as I ask myself though. If I ask anyone else, how would you think about this evolution from a fish to octopus like design of a Pokemon? Do you think there's any sense in that of its evolution, like from a fish to an octopus? Do you think it doesn't? Do you think it didn't make sense from a fish to an octopus? How does it happen? I probably would get an answer like from many others. I would ask, no, it doesn't even make sense. From a fish and octopus, in reality, it doesn't even have some like in our world. But in this Pokemon universe, even despite something like that happen, it doesn't even make sense. Like when seeing Remoraid appears like a small fish, and when being believed that might evolve to maybe as a larger fish, or maybe something like similar to maybe as a shark, but evolves to an octopus-like design of a Pokemon. How's even that the most any makes sense? I think there are probably many Pokemon fans out there who would agree with me. This is a Pokemon evolution line that has no make any sense. If this Pokemon has no logical answer or reason for it, which as much as even can make sense. Consider from how many different Pokemons there are out there in the Pokemon universe, with near close to 900 Pokemon. This, in fact, is one of the most very strange, but at the same time, it's an evolution that even makes sense for a second. For a fish to an octopus, it even naturally makes no sense. This, in fact, is a Pokemon evolution. I would probably scratching my head and ask myself, how would the staff or the writers for the Pokemon this company even came up with this? Were they even high or tired enough? Well, probably either or none of it, but at the same time, this Pokemon design of its evolution from a fish to an octopus, well, I admit, this Pokemon designs of evolution has no meaning to me, has no even makes any sense. This is in fact is probably the top one number Pokemon which has no reasonable sense in this evolution path. I admit I feel beat about this evolution of this Pokemon. And anyways, this is probably the most craziest, unusual, unique, and the Pokemon designs of evolution. At the same time, it's a unique, but at the same time, doesn't even make sense at all. I cannot even describe how I feel when I saw this Pokemon evolution for the first time. I was like, no way can this be in a Pokemon evolving to from a fish to an octopus. I mean, if for some recently, it has no sense. And when my ex girlfriend Rose told me about this Pokemon list, when I saw it, I agreed with her. This is one of the most strange lines of Pokemon's evolutions I have ever seen, but I must say, Remoraid is probably the most different design of a Pokemon evolution. Has no sense at any moment. Anyways, this was the number one, and I hope everyone had a great time watching this top 10 of Pokemon that has evolution that even makes sense. I mean, there were a lot of Pokemon designs of this evolution that somehow could make sense, but at the same time, like Magikarp with the Gyarados, Feebas to the Milotic, and the Compare line to these two different Pokemon designs, and I mean, There's a lot of these Pokemon which somehow, in any sense, doesn't even make sense, if you ask me. But anyways, this is only based on my opinion about this Pokemon, this evolution. That has no reasonable make sense. But this is what I believe, and it is based on my opinion. But if anyone else has their own opinion about this, let me know in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, this is Switch Down Below, over and out.